Great Flagstaff Forests Partnership Director. Sort of run this thing. It's really fun. It is. It's an honor to do this. I can't tell you all how honored I am to work with all of you. So I've been away for a while, so that's why I'm probably getting a little sentimental, but haven't seen all you guys for a while. So I will pass it on that way.
Nikki Lock-Hedeman with the Ecological Restoration Institute. I am the Senior Human Dimension Specialist.
Sarah Davenport, also with the ERI, and I am a Human Dimension Specialist.
Cody Myers, pre-sale forester, Flagstaff Ranger District, and acting for Jake.
Trevor Seck, Arizona Program Forest Supervisor for the National Forest Foundation.
Joe Hintz, I'm the Forest Restoration Program Manager for Coconino County Flood Control District.
Bill Chapman, City Flagstaff Fire Department. Kevin Ordine, Director of Forest Operations for Restoration Forest Products.
And Lisa Bolton, Forest Health Project Coordinator.
Travis Aldrich, Assistant District Forester for DFFM.
I'm Peter Motika, a biologist with SWCA, Environmental Consultants.
Folks, Tavi Bolton, I'm with Campbell Global out of Flagstaff.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you bet. And we'll go online. We'll go to Kelsey, please.
Hi, good morning. Kelsey Metzger with SWCA Environmental Consultants, Environmental Planner.
Thanks, Kelsey. And Devin.
Good morning, Devin Swatis with Swatis Forestry.
Thank you, Devin. And Scott.
Scott Franz, like Nikki and Sarah, also at the Ecological Restoration Institute.
Great. Thanks, Scott. And Trevor.
That's me.
Oh, sorry. I think I got everybody. Did I get everybody online? Okay. We're going to start with the Flagstaff Ranger District operations update. And I'm guessing, Cody, that you're sitting in for Jake. And we appreciate you coming, and I'll hand it off to you.
Share my screen before I get up there. Matt should be calling in, Matt McGrath. He's on that fire down there, Scribe Burn, so he'll be doing his portion of it. I'll probably be running his slides myself, but
Okay.
he will speak to it. Okay, so kind of starting from the north, working our way down. Our ops map updated as of April. It's a little slow. So Durfer and Hawk. I think last time I said they were under contracts with NFF and TNC. So Hawk and TNC and Durfer with NFF. Durfer is currently out for bid right now to the industry. And yeah, we have this event tomorrow, which is a pre-bid show me tour of the area. Then I'll let Trevor talk about the coolness tomorrow night. And I guess responses are due by June 4th for that project. And that's a 3,000 acre project. Hawk, 2,000 acres. That bid period closed last week. And sounds like we've got some bids to come in, which is really good, really exciting. We got Little Springs up here, little guy, 3,300 and some odd acres, or close to 400. That's an agreement with the state. All the work is completed. I think we're just waiting to kind of
Road close out and like 4 acres of cleanup that we gotta do.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So it's just right almost over that line. Wing East. This is a IRSC we have with Perkins Timber. That is 75% complete. So they're just going through it, rushing through it. Pretty cool. If you go to the newest Google Earth imagery, you'll see the cut over there, most of the area. So that was really exciting. Wing West, that has also begun. It's an R4 project. Maybe 1% complete, 2%. They just got in there. They're kind of starting along the 180 and working their way north. They'll be starting some roadwork stuff, so be mindful of that. They'll be coordinating with ADOT to get that done. The LaRue and Little Wing projects. are gonna be combined. And we are currently, I mean, Little Wing is all ready to go. LaRue, we are about 75% through the layout. We're gonna be operating a G&A task order here, hopefully before the end of the month. So, you know, very likely you'll start seeing paint up there in a couple of weeks, really. Our crew is marking the mixed conifer portion of that, a little bit more sensitive areas. And then we're gonna do the G&A contract for the ponderosa pine component of that project. So yeah, like I said, we already have some flagging up there, a bunch of flagging. So if you're in the Aspen Corner area, don't take it down, of course. Yeah, it's just, we were kind of, everyone's first time treating mixed con really. So we wanted to see it with flagging before we painted it, and it's looking really good. We had the wildlife folks out there and they were really impressed. So yeah, we're gonna start putting paint on trees. Walker Hill, I've done in that little 180 corridor. Walker Hill, all the cutting is complete. The remaining closeout work throughout the sale. They will be starting here next month. Marcel admin are working diligently to figure out all the different remaining pieces there that need to be cleaned up. A1 North, awarded to R4, not active. Our Schultz tank project, all of the hand thinning is just about wrapped up. They'll be done this week. And then within a couple of weeks, they'll be bringing a masticator out to get, I don't know, a third of that project with some mastication. Big, I don't know if it's tractor wheel masticator, but that project will be completed by the end of the summer. And then moving down, I don't know if A1 South was completed and closed out last time we joined, but that one's all done. So Southside Airport, on Lake Mary Road, near our office. They're probably about, do they actually have a number there? No, but maybe a third of the way done, half of the way done. They're getting all the way to Old Munns Highway to the I-17. So these green units are being worked in right now. They have some closeout work to do, but their plan is to move north of Lake Mary Road into these units, some behind Pine Canyon and such, in a week or two after they clean some stuff up on the south side. Marshall, we got our contractors back, which was really exciting. So they're out there cutting again. I think we're going to go to a field trip next month for this meeting. So I'm excited about that. Show you guys all that work. Any other specifics? They're probably about a third complete out there in Marshall. And then I can see most of the south. So Newman Park is currently just on standby. They're not cutting in there right now. They're focusing R4, both R4 projects. They're focusing their attention on Frog Tank. Most of this wood is coming out through the rest area onto the I-17 just north of Munns. That one's about 50% complete. And then that's really all of our operations besides Bootleg Antelope, another awarded project to R4 on standby right now, Mormon Mountain, Devon's project. Yeah. Any questions?
What's going on in Mormon Mountain?
It's
Just
yeah.
hasn't started.
It actually, I forget about how much has been complete out there, but it's on standby. I think Devin has his hands full down on the rim or on the Tonto. Yeah. Is that?
It's on the rim right now.
On the rim, yeah.
And there were some extensions given for that one, so he's got plenty of time. Right?
Oh, yeah.
Anyone? Like when you said like with Walker Hill, you said, you know, some cleanup or
Some
like,
closeout inside.
what exactly needs to be done? there?
No,
Just curious.
Taking,
Temporary closeout, final
Okay.
blades,
Yeah.
a little bit of biomass removal,
Okay.
just getting the burn piles 100% where they need to be.
thank you, Tim. I didn't see you over there. It's great.
I guess one addition for folks, the Johnny's project, NFF project, we're looking to advertise that project late fall, so November, December this year, with intent to begin operations next summer to fall 2026. 2,700 acres, so we'll be releasing that RFP in fall.
Questions or comments? You have to have something.
I was gonna go easy on.
No, don't go easy.
Well, I was getting, yeah, I was at the Munns Park community meeting last week. Cutting my teeth. So any other projects being offered and then specifically any information on the G to Z? So yes, the G to Z is kind of rolling forward right now. I'm working on putting that package together. It hasn't really been touched in the last like 6 months. So we're finalizing numbers, putting it together. I think the plan is to offer it before the end of the fiscal year. There's kind of 3 components of that area, 3 treatment areas in that project, double springs, which is like 100% ready to go. And so that work could be awarded right away and then start to be cut. We got Dutton Hill and LL Pocket, which are underneath the table here, out west on our district, kind of, behind Parks or Garland Prairie area. Those need some sale prep items. So, painting, boundary painting, cruising. There's some heritage surveys to complete. And then once that work is completed, that's like the first like mandatory work on that project. And then once that's awarded, we'll bring the numbers back and then offer the timber for that project. So, or do a final like appraisal for it. Yes. So it's coming.
Okay.
And LaRue is the other project that would be awarded this year.
Okay.
Or offered this year. Last remaining one. GSD was kind of on the fence if it was going to be this year or next. Sounds like it's going to be this year.
Give them a hard time. And you said you were at a public meeting recently?
Yeah, Munns Park does.
Tell us about that.
During the summer, they do, I think, 3 or 4 community meetings, 6:30 on the third Thursday of the month or second Thursday. And yeah, I've been sitting in on those meetings. It's been pretty fun. It's really funny. They give a hard time to a lot of the other members that have joined those meetings. And then when I get up, they usually give us praise. So I don't know what I'm doing right down there, but so they only complain about OHBs. There's some interest in the frog tank area because that's right north of Munns Park. So there's some trails that were a little brushy still after that they had finished the work in there. So yeah,
I was just wondering if you got any pushback or anything. Yeah.
and really not. It's
Is it, I haven't been out to like that area, especially in the neighborhoods. Is the thinning better out there than it used to be? Because it used to be pretty scary out there.
in spots, just south of the community still, it's pretty thick, but that's operability challenges. It's pretty steep terrain, really rocky. North of the community, frog tank gets pretty darn close to it, not all the way adjacent. In some areas it is adjacent to the community, but making some progress. I know a lot of people were interested in kind of coming up with their own thinning around their direct properties. So they're talking about some maybe firewood permits so they can, and do some marking with them so they can do it themselves. We'll see. A lot of it was oak, so we can't really cut it.
It's pretty impressive down there when you get on Google Maps and you kind of zoom in. It's now one of those communities where the dark, thick area is the neighborhood, not the surrounding forest. Yeah. Which is a lot of our areas now.
Any other questions or comments for Cody? We had a few people pop on. If you want to introduce yourselves, that would be great. We've got Carl. There you are, Carl.
Hey, good morning, everybody. So I couldn't be there in person. Carl Nelson, the supervisor of the Northeast Division of Forestry for APS.
Good morning, Carl. And Mary. There you.
Good morning, Mary Lou Zimmerman from the Fry monitoring position over here in the Forest Service.
Thanks, Mary Lou. And Paul.
Good morning, everyone. Paul Chapman, Camel Global here in McLeod, California.
Awesome. Thanks, Paul. Good to see you. Did I miss anybody else that came on later for intros? Okay, great. We're going to move on, and we have Trevor here, Trevor Seck from NFF, and he is going to talk to us about the Marshall Project. And I know some really novel treatment types and machinery is being used, so we're really excited to hear about it. So
yeah, you got it. Awesome, thank you. And we'll get the
that shot.
hopefully I can get the screen sharing going.
If not, Neil can help you. He's my tech guy. He doesn't know it, but he is.
Hey, all right, so I'm here today to talk about the Marshall Hazardous Fuels Reduction and Forest Restoration Project on the Coconino National Forest. For some background and context, this project is one piece to a multi-project agreement we have with the Coconino National Forest, dubbed the REPI project, including both Johnny's, which we mentioned earlier, Weimer Springs, also in the vicinity of Mormon Mountain, and of course the Marshall project we're here to talk about today. So to start things off, I just wanted to provide a brief overview of who we are as the National Forest Foundation, or NFF, I'll just be referring to us as, moving forward. So we were chartered by Congress in the early 90s to be, quote, the partner, nonprofit partner to the U.S. Forest Service. So we are a 501c3 nonprofit, and our mission simple: bring people together to restore and enhance national forests and grasslands. In broad strokes, we are here to support the Forest Service in their mission and fill any needs they might have, be that funding gaps, staffing capacity, or technical complex projects, for example. And while, again, I'm focused on the Marshall project today, we also do more than that. As you can tell from our team, we have folks scattered. We're a nationwide organization. And I thought this was just helpful for folks to understand our hierarchy in the Southwest here. Essentially, starting at the top, we have kind of our executive leadership, higher ups. Our regional staff starts with Sasha Stortz. And underneath there, you can see kind of the breakout. This is kind of a victory moment for us, at least for me. When I started in the Southwest 3 years ago, we had a staff of 3. So we have really been able to ramp up on our staffing capacity, which has helped us to, quote unquote, increase pace and scale and the impacts we have on the landscape. So again, I'm focused on our forestry scopes of work. However, we do a lot of different project types. Here's just a quick graphic to show kind of some of the work we have going in northern Arizona. The red dots are going to be kind of our hazardous fuels reduction work. But as you can tell, we have water replenishment and sediment reduction work, land recovery, and community benefit. A lot of different project types fit into those categories. We tried to narrow it down to fewer buckets, if you will. But just kind of a graphic to show our work across northern Arizona. We currently work on 4 out of 5 of the national forests in Arizona, and we're currently working on an agreement with the Apache Sitgreaves, which should bring us up to all 5, which is pretty exciting for us. Talking about kind of our work in the realm of forestry, more focused to this group. I put together some figures here to kind of show our ramping up over the last few years. So in 2024, we contracted just over 8,000 acres and treated over 3,000. Looking to 2025, we're seeing yet again another uptick with an anticipated 11,500 acres contracted. And I might be optimistic here, but we're hoping to treat about 7,500 acres in 2025. This increase in our scopes of work and impact, I always like to bring in partners here. Really, partnerships are extremely important to us. It's how we work. And this is only possible through, these strategic partnerships, our experience and knowledge base. And most importantly, I think, is the trust we've garnered with both our federal and non-federal partners. Okay, and now into the project specifics here. So in total, this project encompasses 2,193 acres. It's located on Anderson Mesa, sitting above Upper Lake Mary. The majority of our units are up on the mesa there. However, we do have a couple Lake Mary roadside units with the far western portion essentially across from Creestraw, just as a marker for folks. And as you can tell, the project area is impacted by numerous timing restrictions, primarily MSO, but also goshawk. Feel free to jump in if folks have any questions throughout this. We'll also have a question round at the end. Okay, so our contractor for this work is Miller Timber, based out of Oregon. They're fairly unique in the fact they run exclusively Ponze equipment. So finished design, kind of technical steep slope equipment. which has been really good for this project area as it's, we treat a lot of flat ground out here. However, in this project area, it is a litany of draws, swales, drainages, etc. And their equipment has no issues navigating this terrain. They can forward operate on slopes 40% and less. They can go more than that, but that's what we're seeing in the project area, which has allowed them to access some of the topographical challenging areas. So again, 2,193 acres, 47,000 tons of saw logs 9-inch and up. The project also includes timber sand improvement, road maintenance, of course, and we're calling it slash treatment. We'll dig into that in a little bit here. All material under 9-inch, conifer materials, pine, as well as the juniper out there, is going to our Wood for Life program, so firewood to tribal communities. We estimate 5,812 cords. That's actually being implemented in a second agreement with Dakota Logging, our local firewood guy, if you will. So as I mentioned, there's numerous complexities within the project. Timing restrictions, of course, we're used to those. Those are, commonplace. One of the big complexities, I should say, is the limited landing space across the project area. You really don't have an opportunity to punch in an acre landing, for example, almost anywhere. So with that, Miller Timber often operates with roadside decking. So rather than having to blow out an area, they're basically stacking decks along roadways throughout the project area, smaller decks in general. I kind of touched on the topography of the area, another challenge. Moisture and roads. So the road system out there, I'm not sure if any of you went out there in the years prior on the 128 Bravo. It was rough to say the least. Impassable for log trucks, often hitting like rock shelves, essentially. So we had to do some significant road work. As well, there's not many road access points into the deeper portions of the units off the 128 Bravo. So extensive temp roads had to be constructed. With this, again, just with the topography, the area, moisture is a challenge for us. Anytime we receive rain or snow melt, the roads turn to soup. And so we have to shut down operations. Thankfully, Miller Timber has been very good about abiding by soil moisture needs. We initially advertised this project with full fiber removal. However, as we all know, that can be a challenging situation with the limited off markets, as well as the long haul distances and costs associated. So Miller came to us with an alternative approach. They proposed a broadcast chipping in woods. So this is kind of unique. I believe it's the first time it's been done on the Coconino, at least in recent years. And we'll dig into that a little more. Another challenge we've run into is the firewood volumes. We are experiencing a somewhat significant overrun in firewood volumes. At this point, advertised with and contracted for 5,800 cords. I'm looking at about 1,000 cord overrun. I think this is largely due to the juniper. There's a lot of juniper out there, and for better or worse, Miller has figured out how to process these into log form to make them easily truckable out, but I think we're just capturing additional volume because of that. Operational approach. So we began the project in 2024, kind of late fall, October, November timeframe. And in 2024, we opted to target the timing restricted units primarily, try to bang those out in our first season, if you will. One of the unique pieces of the way Miller works, as opposed to a standard whole tree ground-based system, they place border trails nearly every 66 feet across the project area, rather than your standard one main skid route into one unit or complex of units. They also implement cutting and forwarding nearly simultaneously. Often operators will cut 100 acres plus at a go, start skidding. There's almost no gap between the cutting head side and the forwarding side on the project area. Leads for a really tidy project, I will say. They also heavily slash their skid trails. And when I say heavily slash, I mean 3 to 4 feet tall. It seems excessive at first, However, due to the slopes, Miller's preference, they are running tracks on their Ponce forwarders and harvesters. And those tracks are acting to essentially break down that woody debris, that slash, work it into the soil. And so by the end, they're having minimized impacts to the soil itself, minimized compaction, as well as kind of churning in some organic matter into the soil. Any slash that's not staged on the skid trails and run over a bunch is staged adjacent to any of the forwarder trails, often in piles, to make it a little easier for the second pass chippers to go through and treat that slash. As I mentioned before, they're also implementing roadside decking, fairly unique in my eyes, and of course the chipping in woods. Okay, chipping in woods, kind of one of the unique pieces of this project. So they're implementing this with Ponce Elephant King forwarders that they custom mounted chippers to. They're averaging about 1.5 acres to 3 acres a day. Really depends on how well the other crew, the forwarding crew, is staging slash consolidating, topographical challenges, as well as the operators. These takes a little time for folks to get in the groove, if you will. What's nice about this system as well is with the hydraulic arm, the grapple on those things, they're able to basically grab anything that's on the ground that's needed to be captured. On average, and I really want to stress average, the chip depth is probably about 1 inch or less across the project area post-treatment. That said, there are small areas of greater accumulations. However, in coordination with Forest Service timber staff, as well as the fire staff locally, they have no concerns with the chip depth. And, also in northern Arizona here, grass tends to grow everywhere. So we have no concerns with grass being able to pop back up and return to the site. Then I wanted to provide just kind of a picture. It's kind of tough to see in this setting of the post-treatment. We'll be able to get out there next month and actually take a peek at the ground here. But as you can tell, it's a fairly clean looking end product with the chips dispersed, no major accumulations. Looks really good in my eyes and in the Forest Service's eyes. So here's a map I put together at the end of the operating season, this last operating season. So just kind of for the legend's sake here, we use a stoplight system for our tracking and visuals. And by that, I mean green is cut material on the ground, yellow cut and forwarded, and red is kind of that final pass that chipping has been completed. We're at about 985 acres complete as of the end of the season. Again, they're back out there now, so just shy of 50% on the cutting and forwarding and 2% improvement. And one note here too is all those pink dots you're seeing, those are all decks. So the roadside decking, good news, less impacts with creating landings, soil compaction, etc. However, those decks are everywhere throughout the project area. Fortunately, we have a really good woods boss on site for Miller Timber, Matt Montague, and he's been doing a great job of keeping tabs on all the decks, directing log trucks as they need to go. So this season, we will be targeting initially kind of the northeast portion in that unit 860, 58, 62 area. They're working there currently. And once MSO restrictions are lifted, we'll start jumping into those areas as well. As far as the chipping piece is concerned, we're at about 325 acres chipped thus far. Last season, we did experience a handful of breakdowns. For example, the braking mechanism going out on one of the chippers. Don't want to be doing that on slopes. So it is lagging behind. However, Miller's really good about also shifting, having a night ops crew. So kind of running 2 shifts throughout the day to catch up on this work. That's the one note that I have on the chipping. Very happy with the end product overall, but it does lag behind just inherently. It takes a little bit extra time.
What is your lag time behind? Are you talking months?
I would say it really comes down to production rates is the issue. So they were running 4 sides last season, and they had 2 chippers running. They brought a third, and of course, the minute you bring another piece of equipment, the other 2 break down. So I imagine that it will probably be a 1 to 2 month lag between, doing all the mech fitting, if you will, to the actual final chipped, accepted and closed out piece.
That's really nice, because I know for biomass removal, they like the biomass to cure for 6 to 9 months before they want to go in there and pull it out. So that's a nice turnaround.
Yeah, it's a pretty quick operation, and the way these guys run is very methodical and efficient. One of the kind of oddities I would say that's a little nuanced or new to me, I should say. Often folks target one unit at a time to work in. They're like, hey, I'm going to cut unit 29. Miller, due to their operational approach, they basically run paths until they hit the next temp road, access point, et cetera. So often they'll be treating through 3 to 4 units at once. That's why, for example, in unit 69, so kind of in by the red area there, you can see kind of just a strip between the temp roads.
I'm gonna get in the weeds here, sorry.
Please do,
Question.
yeah.
I know the Forest Service doesn't like to open more than 2 payment units per project area at a time. With the way that they're running through cutting units like this, how are you managing that particular part where they're running into those other payment units? Or are they only inside 2?
Typically, they're only working in about 2 areas. They basically have 2 sides running in 2 operational zones, if you will. Fortunately for us, we receive stumpage payment for the entirety of the project area up front.
So that's paid for everything.
They've paid for everything.
Okay.
Yeah. The hardest part on our end is just keeping up with these guys.
Is it a scaled sale or is it true measurement sale?
It is technically a scaled sale, but we're going with load count on it.
Okay.
What are the challenges? The first challenge we really encountered was the comfort with the classic Ponderosa pine groupie clumpy prescription down here. Again, these folks are from the Northwest, work a lot in Northern California redwoods. So there's a lot of concern on that front and getting them comfortable, especially with inner spaces. Often they would leave inner spaces and leave like one tree smack dab in the middle. I still remember when they were cutting their first leaf tree unit, started the project, they called me up 2 days in and said, I think we messed up. Because they were just, they hit the prescription right on the head. They cut what they needed to, left what they needed to. They were just not as familiar with kind of the open forest structure that we're used to down here at Desire. In general, we're shooting for, depending on the units, 40 to 70 basal area. Typically, it's kind of switches between 40 to 50 and 50 to 70, depending on your units. And again, that inner space component. Getting them comfortable with the idea that, hey, you can blow out half acre at a time. That's acceptable and actually desired in a lot of instances. As I mentioned before, the limited access into units. They had to do some significant temp road construction. I believe one of the roads is about 2 miles just to get into those further north fingers. Also, the firewood volume overrun, of course. And the last piece, federal funding freezes that occurred with the change in administration. I don't want to get into this too in the weeds here, but in broad strokes, our organization did issue a nationwide, for our scopes of work, stop work order. And it was really unfortunate timing as they were in full swing, running 4 sides, as I mentioned before. Stop work order was issued. Can't blame Miller. They left to another project. And so we've been working on getting them back. They arrived last week and began implementation last Wednesday. So now they're kind of getting back up to speed as some of their operators, they have new operators on the project, I should say.
Now you have to retrain them in a sense with the groupie clumpy and understanding.
Very much so.
of-
Yeah.
And this is
Starting at the
in
beginning.
D by P type units?
D by P.
Okay.
The project's probably, I know better than me, Cody, 2/3 D by P. Got 2/3 D by P out there. Yeah, fortunately, through our time out there, we somewhat trained up the woods boss, and they've been doing a great job of QA/QC on their own. So as I mentioned earlier, this project also ties into our Wood for Life program. And those of you not familiar, I'm sure you all have heard it many times, but I got to run through it. This is essentially a way to connect non-merchantable or less desirable wood for projects, typically a cost for us, to communities in need, primarily the tribal communities across northern Arizona. The long-term goal of this project is to support these folks in creating their own fuels crews, forestry crews, et cetera, so that they can have a self-sustaining model with minimal support on our end, if you will. This often is tied into most of our mechanical thin projects on the Coconino National Forest. We figure if we're paying for the slash removal anyway, we might as well pay to a direct benefit to people in need. I'm not sure if you folks have driven up 89 North recently. There is a large log deck on the right side of the road, east side. A lot of that material is going to our Wood for Life program. Dakota Logging currently is set up there. It is basically just sitting, processing, and delivering as they go. When the Marshall project started, we had 17 different locations we were delivering processed firewood to through multiple other projects. And with some coordination collaboration, we're working to kind of combine some of those destinations, support MOUs between different tribal communities. So for example, instead of delivering to 9 locations within spitting distance, maybe have one hub there. We've seen a lot of success in that and hope to continue our efforts to try to streamline this process and make a more efficient program.
So you pay Dakota to process the wood and deliver it, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then what do you do with overrun when you're talking about overrun? What does that mean? I don't know if I get that.
Okay, so initially we planned for 5,800 quarts, for example, on the Marshall project. From what I'm seeing with the volume tracking, we're probably going to get 7,000 quarts off. So there's more material associated with the project than initially anticipated for and budgeted for.
I see. So it's a budget thing. So you're saying it's about 2,000 more cords than you
Yeah,
anticipate?
about 1,000 or so,
or
our best guess.
Okay. Okay.
And with that, we do have a lot of different strategies under our Wood for Life program. For example, creating a staging location and directing partners, those with the ability to come get their wood and buck up logs to come get that.
So you get rid of that cost. Yes.
Exactly.
Okay.
We can also pay Dakota to, for example, process and leave at the 89 pit. Again, so that way he's minimizing the haul cost associated, and that cost per cord that we pay will go down significantly.
Gotcha.
Paul just raised his hand online.
Oh, Paul, thank you. Paul, you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I was just wondering, so I understand they are also cutting some of the juniper down. I've worked with, Miller's worked for me up here in California. Is there not a fence post market for that juniper? Because it would make great fence posts.
Yeah, I hear you there. Great fence posts. A lot of the juniper we're cutting is a little larger diameter, so maybe not ideal for fence posts. In addition, I think for being out of state, it just makes more sense to them to put it into the Wood for Life program. This material is also not included within their stumpage, so technically they don't own that material. The NFF retains ownership, so we've opted to go with the benefit to the tribal communities rather than a little bit of profit, if you will.
Okay.
That's the end of my presentation, but please open to any questions you have and looking forward to showing you folks this work on the ground.
I have a question, maybe more for the Forest Service side, but I think you guys are gonna be a big part of it, is when it comes to the chipping to avoid hauling of the residual materials, do we expect that if this goes well, that a new larger methodology of treating it that way will be approved or at least considered strongly on the Coconino?
Something that probably is gonna remain to be seen after we burn it and see how it goes. I think the way they're utilizing this flash to provide those slash mats when they're operating is really getting rid of a lot of the material and working it into the ground, like he was saying, and breaking it up into pretty small pieces. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think they're picking some of that up too, and chipping that as well. But I mean, when you go out there, it seems to be, you would think there'd be a lot more chips, especially if you compare it to like Wingies. You're seeing truckloads of chips come out. I don't know where they're going out there in Marshall. I mean, it's amazing. I think it's just the utilization. They're cutting down to a smaller diameter top wood, I think, than we are typically seeing. So there's just not much
residuals, it seems like.
And talking to Jake a little bit, not to speak for the Forest Service by any means, but the way he described it to me, because I had a similar question, was that this could be an optional approach in the right areas. So I think it comes down to where the project's located and kind of the comfort with that, if you will.
Sure. Yeah, it is like the next 3 to 5 years while we try to get a biomass online, a real offtake. You know, how do we find that middle ground to treat things acceptably for all parties instead of large piles everywhere?
Yeah, or if there's like huge haul distances or it's not as accessible, you could do this versus hauling, right?
Yeah, it's a
Biomass
volume conversation. The haul distances you're talking about going out of state to treat volume.
I guess one thing, I apologize, I missed this piece, but I think it's worth noting. This project supported by the Forest Service, Coconino County, through their flood control district, and also the Department of Defense via their REPI initiative. They have deep pockets and they have critical Navy infrastructure up on the mesa there. So that's a part of the reason we have the funding to do some of this work. So just wanted to make that note.
Yeah, the DoD part has been pretty cool because this started years ago. The Flagstaff area is considered a defense community under the DoD standards because of Camp Navajo and the Naval Observatory, Flagstaff Station. There's 2 buildings that they work out of. And usually that REPI funding is something like, you've got a big military base and ranches around it, and they put conservation easements on those ranches to prevent condos being on the fence line of the military base. And so up here, our threat to those installations wasn't development because they're surrounded by Forest Service land, but unplanned fire creating impacts to the telescopes that are, if they have to shut down unexpectedly, it's very expensive and difficult for them. So it's one of a fairly unique project within that National Department of Defense program to kind of treat land this way versus their traditional acquisition of easements.
What other projects is REPI paying for? I remember, are there more than that?
I don't know. I think Jay's put in a couple different applications for the program, but I think up here, this is the only one. But I know like in Southern Arizona, they do a bunch around Fort Huachuca.
Okay.
Huachuca is one that we're involved in. And then, so as I mentioned earlier, this is part of our quote unquote REPI project with 3 different sub projects underneath it, Marshall being one. So they're also supporting the Weimer Springs project in Johnny's.
About 1.5 million or more that they've put in. It's significant.
Yeah, I think it's 1.5 or more. I have to look at the numbers.
Johnny's is an old friend of the Flagstaff Watershed Protection Project. It's been around for a long time and never quite got after. And so super excited that you guys are working on that.
And Weimer Springs, right?
Yeah.
So did those 2 have anything to do with the military though, or how did those 2 get added?
Well, it's within a reasonable area where if fire's in those sites and it's not something that we can either put out easily or we can't plan accordingly for it, that smoke from those sites would blow up towards that interferometer that's right next to Marshall. And so it's basically mitigating potential smoke impacts to the installation over there.
Great.
Nice way to add some.
Funding.
Yeah, some projects.
Not gonna happen without funding.
Yeah.
And this is all for the Golden Dome.
Right.
No comment.
As of this morning, yes. Mr. McGrath.
There he is. That's good timing. No more comments or questions? Oh, you want to talk about?
Yeah, I was just going to mention that. So a little
Yeah.
separate here,
Yeah.
but as we mentioned, Cody was mentioning earlier, the Durfee project is currently being advertised with the pre-bid tour set up for tomorrow. And tomorrow evening at 6 p.m., we'll be hosting a beer release party essentially at Historic Brewing. So we have partnered with Historic Brewing on a collaboration beer to help support that project. So 6 to 8:30 at the downtown location, we'll be releasing the Feller Buncher Hazy IPA. Yes, there is a Feller Buncher on the can. We made sure of that. So I invite you all to come out and join us. We'll be having a few talks. I believe I'll be talking to Joe, maybe Neil, as well as the Forest Service staff. But it should be a good time to kind of celebrate some of the Upper Rio de flag restoration efforts that we're all focused on right now.
Where was that at again?
Historic Brewing, they're right on San Francisco.
Location, yeah.
I hope so.
No, that should be really good. You were talking about that a couple months ago, and so I'm happy to hear that. And I'm assuming that you're gonna be talking, or folks will be talking about the treatments that are gonna be occurring and helping people to understand that we're trying to get as close to historic conditions as we can. And so there might be some pretty drastic changes on the landscape, and like a lot of what we were all talking about earlier, what's gonna happen in Hart Prairie. And so I'm hoping that somebody's gonna hit that message.
Yeah, that's our intent. We're not going to get too into the weeds as far as, project maps, prescriptions.
Right.
Really, the intent is, what is forest restoration? Why are we doing
More
this?
global, yeah.
More global, looking into home defense, defensible space, those kinds of things. SRP will also be talking about the benefits of forest restoration to water quantity and quality. So it should be an interesting show. I think it's tiered more for the general public, less than the folks in the weeds, such as ourselves.
Right. Well, yeah, it's just something that we've all talked about, is where, that people, especially I think you guys are here in the Hart Prairie area, that they're seeing drastic changes on the landscape, but they don't understand that it's basically meadow restoration that you're completing. And so if somebody can sneak that in, that wouldn't hurt. Maybe Neil will do it. Talk about that a little bit, because it will be, in some areas it won't be so drastic, but in other areas it will be, right?
There's a lot of meadow restoration, it's savanna or grassland, so it's gonna be drastic change.
Yeah.
As it should be. Let's just throw that in there.
Yeah. And I think the pictures tell 1,000 words, right? The historic conditions, that you show people what it looks like now. Yeah. So that's exciting. Good. Hopefully everybody will be there, 6 o'clock. Any other questions or comments? And I think Matt is on the line, right?
Yes, good morning.
Introduce yourself. I know pretty much what good you're good. Yeah, pretty much, I know I'm going like this anyway. Why don't you introduce yourself, Matt? I'm pretty sure most people know you, but just make sure. And then we're really happy to have Matt here. He's going to talk about Stage 2 restrictions pilot program.
Sure. Thanks, Ann. Good morning, everybody. Matt, District Ranger here in Flagstaff. Apologies that I couldn't be there with you, but as I'm showing you over my shoulder, we're out down by Mormon Lake with the Mint East prescribed fire, 4,800 acres today. It's amazing what you can do with a helicopter. And helicopter is reloading right now. We're about halfway done and getting some great work done here. And certainly the last, unless we get some freak monsoon storm next week, the last of our spring prescribed fire season. So Cody, I know, was there to talk to you a little bit about the operations stuff. I asked Ann a little while ago if I could have a few minutes just to kind of refresh people's memories on restrictions. And Cody, you can actually skip to like slide 15 on this thing, I think. But we're getting closer to fire restrictions season. We'll start talking about it in earnest next week after it's supposed to get warm and dry. Just keep going, Cody, till it says fire restrictions. There's good stuff in there, but you can see that another time. Talk a little bit about our fire restrictions. Let me turn this off. You don't need to see that. And like I said, looking at probably starting to talk about restrictions next week after it gets warm and dry. But wanted to just refresh folks on what we're doing, because we are doing something slightly differently in the near future. So first, I'd like to remind everybody that there is a giant bubble of year-round Stage 2 fire restrictions surrounding the city of Flagstaff. Doney, Timberline, most of Kachina, Mountain Air, part of Fort Valley, all that stuff. That is year-round camping and campfire prohibition surrounding the city. We renew that all the time. And that is for a couple of reasons, the obvious fire prevention part, but also it keeps people from setting up camps, adjacent to someone's backyard and stuff like that. And it is difficult for us to enforce our 14-day camping stay limit for a variety of bureaucratic reasons, but it's very easy to enforce a no camping rule. If you see somebody camping, they are doing it illegally, and it's easier to chase them out of there. And we have found, and I'll talk in just a minute, a little bit about the connection between people camping, vehicles, and fire. Next slide, Cody. There you go. So just a quick refresher. I know this is an educated group on this, but we have 3 levels of restrictions. 4 if you count stage 0 that we're in right now. But stage 1 fire restrictions prohibit dispersed campfires out on the forest, but allows folks to still have a campfire in a developed site. All of our campgrounds down along Lake Mary Road or in a picnic area. Logic there. Have those giant metal fire rings, usually at least 12 feet of like bare mineral soil clearance. So it's even when we go into higher fire, and also people on site like the camp host. So when we go into higher fire danger, still allow folks to do that. Stage 2, no campfires anywhere out on the forest, or either in a designated site or out dispersed camping. Those little propane stoves and fires are still allowed, which is a little bit of a hassle sometimes. And then the big thing for stage 2, and folks in the room know that, we go into what we call hoot owl, which is from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. No chainsaws or internal combustion engine equipment for timber operations, road building, wood cutting, all of that stuff. And so, stage 2 is a pretty significant step for us here, especially, and I know Cody talked about all the work that's going on, and I'm sure, I think Kevin's been coming to a lot of these meetings. They're out there working hard in Wing West. So it's a real balance for us in reducing the threat of human-caused fires with allowing our operators to continue doing the critical work that's going to provide the long-term risk reduction going forward. And then stage 3, folks are familiar as if it gets really bad, sometimes close the whole forest or some areas. Next, Cody. This is, folks probably seen this. This is a kind of a history of our fire restrictions. I think the year 2020 is up at the top and 2024 is down at the bottom. Anywhere you see a green line is stage 1, yellow line is stage 2, and a red line is stage 3. And once you get the hang of what you're looking at here, I think it does a pretty good job of telling a couple of things. One, there's really no consistent pattern in our fire restrictions. You see there's 2018, the forest was closed for, I believe, 49 days. That was right before I got here. I'm glad I missed that. Then 2019, my first season here, we didn't go into restrictions at all. We were managing fire all season. And we also had the museum fire wedged in there in the middle. This is an updated slide. I think it didn't transfer over, but I also a lot of times overlay the significant fire starts on this chart. And if I had done that today, you would see that there's not really a great correlation between fire restrictions and significant, borderline catastrophic fires like Schultz, museum, pipeline, tunnel. They don't. It's not like, oh, we're in stage 2, we're going to have a catastrophic fire. Tunnel, we were not in fire restrictions. Similar with museum, we were not in fire restrictions. So, it's not a great predictor, but it is a good tool to help reduce the number of human-caused fires. Cody, click. So then here's some our prevention folks and our fire folks keep really good stats and data. And what you're looking at here is the human-caused fire history in and around the San Francisco peaks. So each of those red dots is a human-caused fire. It's from 2013 to 2024. The data goes back before, but it's harder to transfer in, and it's basically the same stuff anyway. But what you see here is the vast majority of our human-caused starts are started along a road. You can see kind of the 151, you can see Snowball Road, you can see Freeland Prairie, you can see 164 Bravo, you can see Schultz Pass, you can see everything. And so vast majority, generally about 90% of our human caused fires are started within 300 to 500 feet or less than 500 feet of a road. In the peaks area, I would say that percentage is a little bit lower because if you see there's a cluster down in the southeast corner of that map, that's actually my office, the Peaks Ranger Station. And we have a lot of folks who live or spend time in the rocks at the base of Mount Eldon. And we actually get a lot of fires from them. We've got way fewer of those calls in the last few years. We've done a better job chasing folks out of there, but use this just to show folks that oftentimes road access and a vehicle is a strong correlation between that and our catastrophic fire history. Click, Cody. Here's the same information for Pump House Wash and the Walnut Canyon area. So that Pump House Wash on the left, you see all those, that's the 237. Those are our designated dispersed campsites. If folks have not been down there, we've got a couple of like 100 site dispersed camping areas that are just wildly popular in the season. Probably I haven't not been out there yet this week, but I'm sure it'll be jam-packed by this weekend. And so a lot of fires down there. And of course, folks know that's Pump House Wash. And I don't know if Jay's in the room, but Jay's house is kind of in the corner of that private up. And so, so there's a lot of sensitivity to that. And then on the right-hand side is we call it Walnut Canyon, but it's everything south of Walnut Canyon. And that giant cluster of fires you see there is all the dispersed camping along Marshall Lake. But again, anywhere we have people and vehicles and campsites in close proximity, we get a significant amount of fires. Cody. Awesome. So here's what we did. And a lot of folks probably heard about this because we started this in 2023. But after tunnel and pipeline, we went back and we looked at all this data and we started trying to brainstorm, like, what can we do to reduce the threat of human-caused catastrophic fire to the peaks and adjacent communities. And we went through a lot of different stuff. We had a lot of ideas. A lot of them were crazy. A lot of them were just maybe not great. And then the one we settled on when we looked at all the data, and that if you take out the folks living in the rocks by my office, 90% of the fires are caused are started adjacent to a road, essentially. And it really shows that if we can reduce the number of motor vehicles in an area, we can reduce the number of human-caused campfires, illegal campfires. And so in 2023, we started a pilot project. It was stage 2 temporary motorized restrictions. And so what we did was during stage 2, we swing the gates, kind of like it's the winter, kind of like it's snowing. So essentially these are winter closures, except they are in June and July and hopefully not May. But you see around the peaks, a bunch of red lines, those roads will all be closed. Everything, the 151 and all the spurs, Hart Prairie and all that. Schultz Pass Road, the 420, the 556, Lockett Meadow Road is already closed. But probably the contract for work on that should start next month. So hopefully that'll be able to be reopened pretty soon. And then also overlaid on that, Snowball Road does stay open. A couple reasons. One, it's paved road. It's mostly access up to the trailheads and to Snowball in the ssummer. Really, Kachina and Humphreys trails are our most popular sites in the summer. And Snowball still up there doing their ski lift up, their view lift up to the top. And fortunately, for whatever reason, we don't have a strong history of any fires starting along Snowball Road. And so we don't have a huge concern there. Also, we've done a bunch of work there with the Snowball Road hand thinning and pile burning over the last season. So kind of harden that as much as possible. That also goes right through the heart of LaRue that I'm certain Cody referenced LaRue, but a lot of great work gonna be going on up there. And so also what that does is still continues to provide significant access.
We lose him.
I think we lost. He's coming back.
He'll come back. Yeah.
I'm back. That was entirely operator error. Somebody called me and I was trying to disconnect that, and I disconnected y'all instead because I'm so sorry about that. Now I'm just gonna let it ring incessantly because I don't know what they want. It's not somebody related to the fire. Otherwise, I actually would have answered the phone. But anyway, so you see, these roads will all be closed during stage 2. Similarly, in Pump House Wash, the 237 and some adjacent roads. And we think that, this will do a really good job. In theory, it should prohibit or eliminate about 90% of the human caused fire starts that we see during periods of serious fire danger. I have some stats there about just how many, it's a small percentage of roads that's closed. I do acknowledge these are like the best roads on the district or some of the most popular roads. Like people want to get out in the Hart Prairie on the 151. We've been building trails like crazy in the Dry Lake Hills and getting up to Schultz Tank, and folks like doing that loop, that driving loop again. And so, recognize that it is a little bit of an impact. Overall, we go into stage 2 for about a month, 4 weeks or so a year. This pilot project is interesting because we started it and got all ramped up in 2023, and then we never went into stage 2 in 2023. Last year, we said, okay, we're going to do it this time for reals. We went into stage 2 last year and we did it for a week. I don't know if folks remember, we went into stage 2 on Friday, and I think the following Wednesday, it just started dumping rain in that really unusual, unique season that we had last year. So we came out of stage 2 after a week. So at least gave us some reps on getting out and swinging the gates, although we're used to doing that entirely during the winter. So recognize that this is a little bit of an impact for folks. We still have a lot of other great opportunities. Also, acknowledging that there is no silver bullet to any of this. We closed the 164B road to camping 2 years ago, and now you see all those folks are across the highway in the experimental fort in Gus Pearson, on the 222 and the 171. I heard the 171 was just getting jam-packed as of yesterday, and that, in theory, that's the same fire that could impact the peaks, right? It's just a little bit further away. But we have Highway 180, and then we have a lot of the treatments. Wing East is 75%. I don't know how much percentage Wing West is. I'm sure Kevin was able to tell you that, making a lot of progress there. So it's not perfect. There are some impacts to it, but we think it's a really good, and we're calling it a pilot because we're not sure, a really good tool for when we're in really high fire danger, really concerned, and kind of everybody's on edge. This is a great step rather than trying to close the whole forest, which is logistically borderline impossible and just a giant hassle. And this still gives folks the opportunity to hike, bike, walk their dogs, ride their horse and stuff like that, because we don't have a strong history of those people starting fires. And certainly not blaming, the cars or vehicles, not blaming most of the people who don't start those fires. But when we let people get really deep into the forest along the 151 or the 164B or the 9002 where the pipeline started, it's just, by the time anybody's able to respond, the fires oftentimes could potentially be out of control. So we have just starting to talk about stage 1 restrictions. We're finishing up prescribed fire season as we do, and that's usually right up to the edge of restrictions. It's supposed to be, close to single digit humidities the next few days, breezy, above average temperatures. So I think by next Friday, we may be talking about stage 1 fire restrictions. And then if, who knows what the weather is going to bring, but, we don't know with stage 2, it might be a couple weeks after that, or maybe we'll get another unique season like last year where we start getting rain in the middle of late May, early June, and we're able to drag it out. So pretty sure that is the last slide I had, because I didn't want to take up too much of folks' time, but just wanted to refresh folks' memory on stage 1, 2, 3, all that stuff. But then also, you may be seeing in 3 or 4 weeks, we start swinging those gates. None of this happens overnight. There's usually several days notice, but we'll be letting folks know, and just know that as soon as it rains and we come out of stage 2 restrictions, the gates will open and everything will be free. So looking forward to getting the monsoon season, and just want to see if folks have any questions for me. But thanks, Ann, very much for giving me some time remotely. Again, apologies I couldn't be up there, but the remote time is great. And if anybody has questions or comments, happy to hear them.
Questions or comments? Folks.
I just think that's a great pilot. I think you guys used your science and data and came up with something that's hopefully going to make us all safer. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I remember when you were talking about it, Matt. So it's really good to see it, in action now, because you were talking about this, I think, last year. And how are you informing the public? And are you putting signs up at the roads plus other ways of informing the public?
Yep. So up front, our usual outreach methods of press release and social medias and stuff like that. We were able to shoot a great video talking about this last year. We'll put that back up on the socials and ask our friends and partners to share that also. When it comes down to actual implementation and swinging the gates, a lot of these areas, like folks who live out off our prairie, it's getting them to, not be surprised when they get there and they see the gate closed. I mean, they're used to it from the winter time, that gate being closed and opening and going on out there. It's mostly we'll be swinging the gates. We'll be staffing like the key points, like where we know a lot of people are going to be, like at the Schultz Y, or right there at Hart Prairie, or 151 and Highway 180. Kind of staffing it for that first weekend, first couple of days, just to give folks an idea. But everything, all the gates will have signs on them, probably like QR code or a link that you can go to get actual, the maps and figure out exactly what we're doing. Because probably a little bit of a surprise for folks coming up to, from wherever. And then, they think that they're going to go park up at Schultz Tank and ride their bike. And they just drove up for the day and there it is. So we'll try to have as much information as possible and let folks know that this is kind of a short-term measure, just when we're really in really very high or extreme fire danger.
And that, real quick, the 7% of the roads, was that the roads on the district or the forest?
That's the roads on the district. So we have 1,500 legal miles of roads. We probably have double that, that we don't actually count as part of our road system. And so I think it's like 7% of the district roads. I think it would be like 3% of all the roads. And one of the things I'll share with folks, one of our thoughts here is that the stage 2 temporary motorized restrictions, which really focuses on 3 key areas, right? The peaks, Pump House, and Walnut Canyon, kind of the places that keep me up at night this time of year. Focuses on those areas rather than just a whole forest closure, right? Where we close the whole freaking forest and people can't go out the 700 road where we have done so much treatment. You're going to have trouble getting a fire to carry through there. So we think like, this enhanced level of protection for the priority areas while still giving folks a lot of room to roam out on the national forest, we think is kind of that balance that we were trying to strike. And I think we made it, but we only did it for 1 week last week. And as soon as we did it, it started to kind of drizzle. And so we knew it was over soon. So if we get into it for, 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I think we'll probably get more robust public feedback. But just talking to most local folks, of course, have lived through tunnel, pipeline, museum, going back to Schultz and beyond. And I think support, these short-term measures to reduce the risk to the community and to everyone's homes.
Yeah, it definitely feels safer and more secure. I mean, because I remember when we didn't have this at all, and I think this is a great step. So I want to commend you for that, Matt.
I think it's important to remember too, these roads aren't closed. They're just temporarily restricted for motorized vehicles.
You can walk.
Right, exactly. People can walk, they can bike, they can ride their horses.
Yep.
Just driving on these roads.
Right. Fires start from cars a lot of the times. Yeah. People don't realize that, but they do. Yeah. Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Matt, one more question. If we get into stage 2, what happens? So we've got Hoot Owl, but the roads are closed to the public. Do we still get to move logs and chips if we're in stage 2?
Yes. Yeah, we'll still be able to do that. We'll still, we're not trying to shut down any operations that we all know are critical. So Hoot Owl will still apply, but then we'll still, kind of like when the Schultz and all that was closed for, just for 2 years or after the fire, and we still had, administrative access and we had loggers in at Schultz Tank and stuff like that. We'll still be authorizing that, but just have to maintain the Hoot Owl from 9 to 8.
Thanks. Yeah, we open and close the gates with every truck.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
Yeah. No, that's like that. And everybody in this room, when I talk to you all, like you all know how it is, but like everybody knows, like 4 weeks of if we knock out timber for 4 weeks, right, then we're just we're extending the risk into out years. Whereas if we have Kevin's folks in there plowing through Wing West and Perkins finishing Wing East, like let them work, let them get in there and keep working. Because long term, like this is I think a pilot, it's like a stopgap measure, right? And then as we start doing finishing those treatments, start introducing prescribed fire into those areas, maybe we won't necessarily need this in 5 years. We don't know. But we definitely don't want to get in the way of the critical work that's going on.
Anything else for Matt? And any questions online? Anybody online have any comments or questions?
One thing I'll just add is there are people everywhere right now in the forest.
Yeah.
So I encourage all of us to kind of know a little bit more, to spend some time driving some of these roads, spend some time in the forest, just to help the Forest Service fire department get that critical timing if something does pop. I mean, every year we put out abandoned campfires, just Tuesday for us, but there's a lot of them out there. So it's a good reminder going into the season that it's going to take all of us to keep us safe.
And I just want to say that I appreciate the information, especially with what's going on in Greer right now. I think a lot of people are wondering. And so I appreciate having this information to relay.
Thanks, Coral.
Maybe too, just like you were saying, Coral, this could be something that could happen over on the east side of the state in the forest there, potentially. You know, this pilot is this, you know, it's just something, an idea, Matt, to share that if it's, if you feel it's working with our our neighbor forests. Yeah. Yeah, that's great.
I got one question just related to the, like, I think in my head, I am on the right track of understanding, but don't know exactly the bright line of when you hit stage 2. Is it just that, like, the equipment that's going to fell trees and whatnot is no longer allowed, but then the extraction of material that's already down is cool with, you know, with those restrictions?
Yeah, so Hoot Owl, which is from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m., prohibits any work, spark creating equipment, and that's not on bare mineral soil, right? And so out, a feller buncher out cutting, can't do it. Hauling on a road, which is obviously bare mineral soil, is okay. And so, there's operators in the room there that can talk better about it, but they try to, get the cutting done when they can, and then use that time for other stuff that's permissible during those hours.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks.
There's a strategy.
Yeah, your feller
Right.
buncher is your ignition source, so you really want to control that.
Right.
Loading logs onto a log truck sitting right next to a cleared landing, you're okay for a little bit longer. But generally, you're shooting by the time the winds pick up. And then fire watch after that to ensure nothing happened. So it's just Tuesday to us when we hit Hoot Owl. Everyone's a little sleepier, but that's just what we do.
Anything else for anyone? That's great, Matt. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. We wish you really good luck with the fire. Do you have any more good pictures for us of the fire?
No, I'm still
No.
checking. I sent one to Cody. One of our control features or boundaries is the WAPA power line, that the 350,000 volt one that goes down to Phoenix. And so it's always interesting seeing a bunch of smoke puffing up next to that line. But fortunately, we've got APS and WAPA both out here with us because we got power lines crisscrossing everywhere that we are. But it's kind of a cool sight. I sent Cody a photo. It's only on his phone. He may not be able to share it, but it was a pretty good look. Thanks everybody for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you too, Matt. Good luck with that.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Great, and we're gonna move on. You have a little bit more time. We're a little ahead, so if you want to take a little more time than what's on the agenda, Travis, you can. This is DFFM update. Yeah, I think I had you for 5 minutes, so you can go a little longer. But
Okay. Let me share my screen right quick. But it doesn't go into that didn't go into the All right, so as you know, for DFM, we have 3 primary areas where we're doing a lot of our work in. Right here, I'm showing you the Cragen watershed area. We have 9 projects that have been bid out and that can have work actively taking place on them. A little over 17,000 acres. We did just complete Baker, which is that lower left pink one there. That's 1,010 acres that is officially done off the docket there, which is really, really quite large for us. We have an additional 3 that the Forest Service has requested us to take on the assistance with GNA. One of them we will be spooling up at the end of the federal fiscal year, so that will be added to the map here in September timeframe. Name on that. I want to say Milk Ranch off the top of my head. And it's located in this area below Clover. From there, I'm going to move us slowly up to the Flagstaff area. So inside the greater Flagstaff area, we've got 3 projects that we were working on, and we'll be adding another one here shortly. This is the Walnut Canyon RX. We were originally planning on burning this week, but with all of our resources being pulled for the career fire, that was canceled. So we're not going to be doing any kind of actions on that area at all. We have Pump House where we were working in with the Forest Service. We're trying to complete our work on our state trust land to be able to incorporate that into the GNA project as we've been working on together with. And then just to the left here, this is a newer project, Jack. It's a little 440 acre parcel on state trust land that we're actively in the data collection process for. Again, that one, we may see operations sometime this state fiscal year. We hope to have it on the books sometime in the early spring. But as you said, we had Little Springs. That one's basically done. We just have the road closure work that we need to do. About 4 acres of just some cleanup work that needs to be done once the MSO restrictions lift. Our final area that we have work taking place in is along the 64 corridor. We have 2 projects, Red Lakes Phase 1, which is this lower green one, and then Red Lakes Phase 2. Like I've said before in the past, we have continuing issues with the locals that are in that area. They don't really like us right now, so we're kind of pausing and hoping that will simmer a little bit, and then we'll be readdressing it. And then moving north, I've got 2 additional projects that we've got right now. Woodlands East. This is in Pinyon Juniper land. We are actively in the data collection phase right now for this one to help us develop our silvicultural prescription. And then one that just got put on the books here is Babbert Ranch, which is going to be very similar to Woodlands East. Pinyon Juniper type work. We're not quite sure which method we're going to be using yet, whether we're going to be using mastication, pluck, pull, burn, vials. It's still very much in the developmental phase. But again, those ones are on our radar for work to be completed in the near future. That is what I've got. So I didn't really take up more time. Sorry.
Questions or comments? So I was wondering on the Red Lakes, you said that you're having issues with the locals. Can you expand on that?
Yeah, so we initially performed on Red Lakes Phase 1. We initially had attempted to do the entire work via machine, and internal leadership decided that we needed to focus on some hand crew work and do machine work. And as a result, we were only able to execute a fire break on the outer rim of that particular project. What ended up happening is we didn't appropriately communicate with the surrounding neighbors and engage with them prior to working to adequately describe what we were trying to do. And so as a result, what they saw was, oh, we're cutting down all the trees. All the trees are gone. In reality, we took the density from about 150 to 200 trees down to like 7 to 8 per acre to create an adequate fire break. Which was absolutely necessary based off of our fire team and Rick Miller's decisions there. But they hated it, like just couldn't stand it. And then as we tried to engage with them and explain that as we move internal, we're going to be removing the density to about 50% of what it is now to help create breaks in the canopy and things along those lines. They just were massively against it. They got congressional members involved. And so as a result, it has become a hot topic button for our department. And that's why we've been laying back on the, I think it's similar.
Do you think the people out there are kind of that segment that fall into like new area residents, or do you think?
We know for a fact they are.
Yeah,
We know that they have come from Southern California.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to bunch them in there, but there does seem to be a mentality with newcomers to the area, not knowing what historic fire regimes are, what our area is actually meant to be when it comes to the environment that's there.
Yeah.
So yes, that was a big one.
It's just so funny because it's the complete opposite message we get in so many other areas where they're just like, my insurance is skyrocketing. What are you doing about it?
Or why are treating the forest behind us, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, at least in Flagstaff, I've seen that big, huge turn. So, well, I guess that's a lesson learned though, right?
Yep. Big
Yeah,
time lesson
you know
learned.
better in like, do community meetings and like that, or, maybe mail or something to reach out to the community before you go in there, but.
It was also, some of it's an internal thing where on state trust land, there isn't a requirement to have a public outreach period.
It's
It
trust
is,
land,
it is state trust land designed to be managed for the greatest profit for the state. And so as a result of that, we don't have to do public outreach per the black and white. What we're finding is that even with that there, we need to be doing that. So live and learn.
Question from Mary Zimmerman. Will you have any public meetings now to engage the public?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, as soon as we further develop our silvicultural plan and what we intend to do in there, we will be reaching out to them with both. We're gonna be adding additional resources to our outreach for both Firewise and with our special forestry team on forest health concerns. So that way we've got additional experts helping to address their concerns.
Yeah, we found that when, like we were starting up WPP and so many crazy things were gonna happen and, forest treatments weren't occurring at the rate scale that they're happening now. Everything was so novel. We had the helicopters coming in, steep slope equipment, and we had cable logging. And we found that when we went out, we talked to the public that at first they're really up in arms. They're very concerned because they don't really understand. They hear helicopters and they think big, old trees are coming out.
Yeah.
As an example. So, and we found that once we explained it to them, and we did this prior to treatments, generally, most of the treatments, especially the bulk of the treatments, that their temperature came down so fast. Once, it's explained to them, but we also had handouts. So we had items that they could take home and read. And there were pretty light as far as text goes and a lot of pictures and things like that. And there are pieces on our website if you want to take a look that
I've already
help.
used and kind of like gone copy paste.
Would you do it? Please take it. That's what it's there for. So that's great, and so that's why we developed a lot.
I've also got one near Fort Title that was just the other day one.
Very good. Oh, yeah, the some of the signs that we've developed, So that's good. I'm glad that's helping you, but like I said, don't be afraid because I think a lot of it is they just don't know. And then once it's explained to them, then they're like, oh, okay, I get it. So.
Yep.
Yeah. And also if there's HOAs or certain groups, or if you can tag in on another event, that's always really good too. Something that it's a community event, Red Lakes, I don't know what it would be, but that's always helpful as well.
Okay.
Yeah, as an idea.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. And we're gonna move to forest industry update. Let's see, is Devin still there? You are. Hi, Devin.
Hello.
Good to see you or hear you, Devin. Do you want to provide an industry update?
Yeah, so for us, I guess for we at the beginning of April, like, I believe it was like April 5th, we moved into Clover. It's a GNA project over on the Mogollon Rim District. We have treated about 600 acres in about 5 weeks. So we're about a third of the way done with that project. I think it's looking pretty good. Our customers are increasing their demand. Southwest Forest Products out of Phoenix, they're about to ramp up their new sawmill, so they will be about doubling their demand from us. So we're getting ready for that. And that's pretty much all I have for today.
And the new sawmill, can you talk about that a little bit? Like what will they be processing there?
Yeah, so they will be taking basically every stick, saw log spec that we make. Right now I think they're probably the current setup probably goes through about 16 to 18 loads a day. I think they're going to be looking closer to the 35 to 40 loads per day, probably starting gearing up here in the summer.
Sure. So for me, big news, we already talked about a couple different ways, but the Hawk project that TNC has, we had bids went out. There was a tour. It was well attended. Got several bids back, and we're looking to make some decisions on that project by the end of the week. And then get started as soon as possible. So it's over 2,000 acres with the goal of getting them completed within 1 year. So it should move fast, and it's right next to where everyone else is working. And so there is a ton of activity that's all taking place in a really important spot. So yeah, I think if folks are surprised now or go down those roads and they see a lot of activity, like that's going to continue for a while, and it's going to, be put back closer to where it should be. So that one's exciting. I think we don't talk a whole lot about the east side folks here, but in some of their meetings, they are really having a difficult time being able to move logs there with the mild winter. Everyone is full, so a lot of folks were very limited on what they could deliver. That has some ripple effects. Different project on the Kaibab National Forest that TNC has coming up where it's going to be a deck sale. So potential to put some of those folks to work that don't have work and then they can't deliver to their customers anyways, going to be treated a little bit. So we're hoping to put that out here in the next week or so. Small project, but could be impactful for some of those folks if they can't make any money right now. That's not it for me.
Okay, Kevin.
So I had the opportunity to attend the Federal Timber Purchasers Committee last week. 10 years ago, it's putting together. Something that was said there resonated with me to the point that I had to go make a new friend. But I wanted to make sure that everyone here is aware. When they're talking about for the Forest Service, I think Scott Rogers has mentioned this in a way, but this came from higher, where the air is thinner, is when it comes to increasing the board footage outputs, the peanut butter spread will be uneven, was the frame that was put out there. We are in the thin spot of it because we are not a high CCF per acre area. So when it comes to the Four Fry, we're all very, very biased in our opinions that this is the coolest show on TV. But it does, I would expect this week or next week was the expected timeline for some of those plans to be made public. Once they are made public, I would encourage outreach to the powers that be to, if we do not get our fair spread of peanut butter, we should start to vocalize that locally, because the value that is provided by the work here is not, the ROI conversation, return on investment conversation, is such that the mitigation of catastrophic wildfire and the suppression costs should be factored in aggressively instead of just net value of stumpage. So use that for the update for now. Is we'll see what it comes out to. Like I said, I made a new friend. Hopefully the conversations went well behind the scenes. They are faced with an impossible task. And I wish them well in their planning, but I expect that we may not see what we would all like to see, which is 25% more acres and CCF here locally. If we can maintain where we've been at or get to a 40,000 acre kind of steady state, that would be a huge win under the current understanding. Once we see what comes out, right? I just, unless it goes the way that we all want it to, I would say let's reach out to those that we know within our networks to help them understand the importance of the work that's being done here, as well as the opportunities for us to increase pace and scale where there may not be those same opportunities in other areas with higher CCF per acre.
Would it help, like, if GFFP sent them a letter?
Let's see what comes out.
Okay, let us know, because what we could do is, collaboratively write a letter that everybody agrees on and get sent it.
My guess is when this is announced, everyone is going to be very, very aware, because the Forest Service is going to have to make the comment as far as here's what we expect to do when our offerings 26, 27 go forward. From there, we have an opportunity to, in a very short time period, make some noise to help realign what we expect versus what is offered. They may give us everything. I'm not throwing anyone under the bus at this point. I'm just saying, get ready, because it did seem like the way that they were approaching it was not necessarily, hey, you're mitigating wildfire, we're going to send you a check. It was more, where can we get the biggest bang for our buck financially? Not necessarily where can we avoid cost and factor that into a return on investment calculation.
That's frustrating that there's stuck.
I made a new friend.
Yeah, good. I'm glad you made a new friend.
Yeah. I had to have lunch with the guy to say, okay, explain, like, I'm here to help. How do we make this work? So the other piece of it is the Forest Service is going to be looking to industry specifically to how creative can industry get to help the Forest Service achieve their goals. What is it that all of us at this table can bring to bear so that the Forest Service can do more with less? Less humans, less money, bigger target, right? In private industry, that's called Tuesday. For the Forest Service, this is a whole new room. And it's incumbent upon all of us to support that. And I think we can figure it out. I left there optimistic, not defeated, but I do think that we have some challenges coming, and we'll see what those look like. How steep is that hill to be determined? But, yeah, it was a very positive meeting. I'll give you that. Industry, I was the little guy in the room by a lot, right? There's a lot of the big name players there. The sentiment that I got was this was the most productive and optimistic meeting of that committee in a very long time. So.
I don't know. I would imagine if we're looking at industry players who are treating federal land acres, you guys are pretty big dogs in the room. I mean,
in Region 3, which is
right. Yeah.
I'm a big fish in a very small.
Which is 10 times harder than a lot of other areas. So we need to work on that.
We do. And like I said, I made my case aggressively as I could. From there, it's a matter of how do they spread that peanut butter.
Yeah.
Once we see what that looks like, I think there is an opportunity to reframe the conversation a bit. Especially if you do see massive litigation in places other than here.
Yeah.
Because we have a social license that is not present everywhere. Right. So we have an opportunity. Let's see how that peanut butter spread goes from there. I think the conversation's gonna change a little bit, because the Forest Service is gonna need the assistance to meet those targets. And if all of a sudden, let's say Region 6 or Region 1 is all of a sudden going, oh, no, we can't put up the acres because we're in litigation for the next, 10 years.
Yeah.
Well, they're gonna still have to meet that target, and we're gonna be going,
Yeah.
here to help, right? So the path forward is murky at best, but I think it is achievable under most conditions, so.
Got a House oversight hearing last week on Fix Our Forest and had a good exchange with Congressman Eli Crane. And later that day, he posted on Twitter, we must ensure Arizona District 2 receives the necessary resources to mitigate future disasters and build on the momentum we're seeing with. That's what he said. So I think, it was a really good discussion with the Fix Our Forest Act and some of the changes that it would bring aren't as impactful here because we do have the NEPA already done. But I think he received the message as well. We've got a lot of progress that has been made here, and it could easily be turned in the other direction if we don't maintain some of these investments.
And if you haven't seen it, Neil did very, very well.
Oh, thank you.
Looking good on C-SPAN.
That's great, Neil. Anything else before we end? Well, thanks, everyone. And our next meeting is in June. Are we gonna do we're not gonna do the field tour during the GFFP time slot, right? The next, which would be June 18th. We'll figure out timing. I'll be in touch with everybody. It might be a little longer amount of time that we might need. And we'll talk and we'll figure that out. We'll get something out pretty soon so people can set aside that time. It might be something from like 9 to noon versus 10 to 11:30, but we'll talk and make sure that works. Cool. And we will, after that, we will have summer break in July, which means we will not have a meeting in July. So just as an FYI, looking ahead. Okay, and I think that's it. Thanks, everyone.
Real quick question on the field visit.
Yes.
Can we invite fellow staff members to attend that?
Absolutely. Everybody's welcome. You don't have to be on the email list. So, yeah, so.
You don't care if I show up with a crew of like 6 people?
Hey, as long as you can pull off when trucks are coming in and out, no worries.
Okay. So then, just few if we can, but.
Okay. Yeah, we'll probably meet somewhere and do some carpooling. So we'll talk about that too. We'll send out an email. We'll get together and talk about times, carpool and things of that nature.
Yeah, I've got a good staging location in mind.
Okay.
We can consolidate.
Okay, great. Yeah. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, this is talking about the, well, I think that's a hot thing. So let's all try to consolidate vehicles, even though nobody's going to.
Yeah.
That actually worked. A couple of people got in. Yeah, they'll jump in.
Yeah.
You guys, yeah. I was laughing, because I'm like, that's so true.
Yeah,
Everyone's
I'm
like,
gonna say
cool
it, no
story,
one's
I'm
gonna
trying
do
to.
I even like to carpool out.
Yeah.
It's crazy that, yeah.
I didn't know you.
Really small group. Great. Extreme.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah, no, I heard that the other day, I was like.
That's good to hear. So let's just haven't heard.
What costs?
I was gonna
think
think about it.
Touch base. Like, no.
Then dude, just let him know, like, hey.
Like.
Yeah, we started the Heritage Service, and I think
You
kind
have
of
a theory?